Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Hepler Football Channel. Today we have a preview Ponderings, a special edition where we got the Tottenham Man United match coming up, and this one's going to be a brother versus brother. So I'm a Spurs fan, obviously. My brother, Matt, on the screen there is a Man United fan. So we're going to do we're going to do a little preview ponderings here and just talk about the upcoming match between the two of us. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it today. So I'm going to let my brother tell you a little bit about why he likes Man United. This is my brother, Matt, and welcome him.
Thank you for having me. I don't know why I'm a Man U fan besides the fact that I started watching them back when I was in college in 97, 98. And I mean, that's just a team that was flying high and loving the way they play. They play the style I like playing, and I always enjoyed watching Fergie time and all that type of stuff. So that just drew me into them and really no one else. So I do like Tottenham a little bit, but nah, definitely not this weekend.
Okay, well that's interesting because I didn't even know that. So what is it about Tottenham that you kind of like?
Well, when I when I played here, I played with a Tottenham team here, but I did always liked. It wasn't, of course, it's not your current manager, but I've liked the managers before and how they've played as well. They have kind of flying, go forward, let's attack type mentality, and I've always enjoyed watching them play
Like
as well. So
Pochettino?
it's, huh?
Pochettino?
Yes, that guy. I can't say his name, but yeah, I liked watching him as a manager too. So he managed how I liked him. I liked the teams to play. So
Ah, cool. Well, that's awesome. Well, let's see. I didn't even know that. Awesome. Well, so there's a little introduction. We're going to have a little fun today. So we usually do a little thing called. So we'll talk about the teams here a little bit real quick. Right now, Man United sitting second, 60 points. Tottenham, we're sitting sixth, 49 points. We're just a few points behind top four, top five. So we're still in the race, but I've been talking a lot. I don't know that that's something that's really feasible for us, but we'll talk about things here coming up. But something that I wanted to get your thoughts on is: did you expect your team to be where they are right now at the beginning of the season? Did you expect Man United to be up there in second at this point going into the season?
I really expected them to be challenging for the for the for the league. I tell you the
Oh,
truth,
wow.
but City just seems pretty dominant. I don't mean that's the best thing I could say. They win the games that they shouldn't or that they should, and then I mean they're just taking care of business. They win the games they should, and then they either draw or win the games they are tougher. They're tougher games. I mean they're favored going into every game, and that's probably always tough for a manager to say, oh, you can't ever play the underdog role. But I mean they are very good. But I did expect Man U to be closer and them to be battling it out through the season.
Right.
Well, plus
Yeah.
with Liverpool, I expected all three of them to be up there, and Liverpool kind of faded, which I'm
Yeah. You
good.
guys
I'm happy with.
You guys have been on a pretty good run of late. You've gone 10 matches undefeated without a loss in the
Yep,
Premier League.
in the Premier
So,
League. Yep,
that's kind of the same sort of things that Man City's been doing, and that's what's helped propel them forward. I know early in the season, you guys were really struggling with defense.
yep.
Why do you think that's kind of shaking out a little bit? What do you think's changed there to solidify that defense? Because I know in the past 5 to 10 matches, you've given up very few goals.
Well, I think there's two things. One, I think is defense. You don't really change. You can't really change defense up. They got to have a continuity. Uh, and so the more you play the same people, honestly, that they're going to get better. And then kind of this is I'll say, since I said two things, this second thing was Fred has played a lot better. McTominay's always played good in that role, but Fred's played a lot better. And then the bringing on Tellez has upped Shaw's game to now being the best left back in the Premier League. So that is huge.
Yeah, I'd say arguably Luke Shaw is probably right now one of the best left backs in the league, definitely. And I know that's not probably what anyone was expecting coming into this season because he wasn't showing that quite that good of form in previous season. But yeah, he's really, I think that's a huge asset that you guys do have there. And yeah, I kind of thought Spurs, we'd be definitely in that top three, top four race all season long, especially after the start we got. You know, we started off great the first 9 matches or so. We were top of the league going into Christmas, and boy, the whole bottom fell out of everything. And I think it's kind of like what you were talking about, how you all solidified your defense. Tottenham's done completely the opposite. It's like a musical chairs every week of who's going to be in the. And I think that's something to be looked at and considered, like you were talking about, is, you know, without developing any continuity, it makes it very difficult for the defense to function properly and function well.
It's hard to
So
communicate. Yep.
it is. It does, and that's another thing I think with our defense too is we only have one truly experienced center back, and that's Alderweireld.
Yep.
All the other center backs are either converted from another position or they're young, and so they don't have that leadership properties yet to where they're really dictating what's going on with that defense. And I think that's a big thing that hurts us too. And you got some solid players in the back. I mean, McGuire's an experienced Premier League center back. I know, you know, he's not always been with Man United, but he's played a number of years
Oh yeah.
and established himself. He's worth 80 million, but he's definitely a solid center back. I mean, we'd love to have him right now. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about coaches. So as far as coaches, how do you think Solskjaer is doing with Man United? I know it's probably like over here on our side with Jose. You got a whole side of the aisle that either is okay or loves them, and a whole nother side that's like, this guy is a nut. So what do you think about Solskjaer, how he's been handling everything in his term?
I think he does. I think he does very well. I like Solskjaer. I I've I liked when they brought him on because, of course, I did see him play, and stuff like that, in on when in the '90s. So I saw a
Right.
lot of him playing. So I really enjoyed all that, and I think he's a great coach. I don't. This is another. I talked about defense playing musical chairs. Coaches, you can't play musical chairs with. You've got to let them have time. And I think the bigger clubs don't give coaches time because they want results immediately. Well, if you want to build a team, you got to give them time. That's if you want to go and spend tons of money and buy a team, you can do that too, and you can have any coach there, and the players won't listen. But I think the players buy into what he says. They they uh, they play for him. They play for themselves. He gives them motivation of, go out and do your best for you, do your job, don't worry about doing someone else's. And I think that's a great motivation, great way. Let's fly like teams of old. And our counter is extremely potent.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a ton of speed on your team, which is a pretty amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, we have speed, and at least on Tottenham side, I think we have speed in particular positions. We don't have speed throughout our team, and I think that's something that we do struggle with at times, is getting outpaced, especially in the back. Our only real, if you want to call him pacey, I don't think he's that fast, but he's probably the paciest center back we have, is Sanchez,
Yeah.
but all our other center backs are kind of a little more footed, I guess, if you want to say. They're not as fleet as foot, but the one downside with like a Sanchez, in my opinion, at least for our team, is his intellectual capacity on the pitch is not nearly as good as other players, or at least in that position. So while he has the physical attributes, I don't think he has the intellect, the on-field intellect to, do the things he needs to do to always mitigate risk. And I think, his physical abilities get him out of a lot of trouble often. And in my opinion, and at least from a defensive perspective, I would almost rather, I would prefer someone that has a great intellect, because for me, defensively is pretty much 65, 70% middle. And because if you can get yourself in position and be where you're supposed to be 99% of the time, you can mitigate someone's speed a good amount.
Yeah.
And that's just my opinion. But, and I think that's where we struggle a little is, there are times that we could use a little more speed back. Now we've got Region in. He's someone that I think is going to be a pretty good left back going into the future for us. And he's got some pace, but he also likes to get way up the pitch. I mean, there's a lot of times he's on the other end line and he's got to get all the way back. So even a pacey guy would have a difficult time with that. But yeah, I think Solskjaer's done a pretty good job there, considering, the challenges he had coming in, the unrest with the players and things after Jose left and stuff. So I think you guys have done pretty good. Do you think he can take you to that next level where you're winning Premier League championships, going into Champions League, competing at into the latter stages of that? Do you think he can do that for you?
Oh yeah, I think he can make us. I think he can make us great again. I think he can get us start getting us more trophies again. No offense, I'm extremely happy that Marino left.
Yeah,
I'm not a big fan of Marino, so I'm pretty happy that he's gone, and that maybe you took him or you guys have him, but I mean I wouldn't wish him upon you guys because I'm not a big fan of Marino. I'm not. So,
right.
but I'm glad he's not on with us anymore.
Right. Yeah. I was not excited about the change when it happened, and mostly because I didn't think they gave a fair shot to Poch, because they had gone 18 months without signing anybody, and then they bring in, Mourinho right after he just had that Champions League final run and everything. And I know they got off to a bad start this season, but I just didn't think he got a fair shake. And then Mourinho comes in and they spend, a good amount of money that they hadn't spent in even almost 2 years. I mean, it's ridiculous to me.
That's
And
what he does, and and he
well,
wants to spend to get the players he wants, but he still doesn't manage them very well.
and the reason why I wanted to talk about the coaches a little bit, I think it's important for the team or the club to have the right that fits the team. Because, I mean, you look at Man United. I mean, you're one of the wealthiest teams in the world. You could buy just about anyone you want at any given time. Where if you look at the Spurs, while they've come a long ways financially over the last 10, 20 years under Enoch and those guys,
Yeah,
they're still not in that kind of big spender mode. They don't do that. That's not how they function, and their business model is. And I argue that you have to have the right coach to fit that model. And someone that wants to just buy the best players or pick off other players that other coaches have developed to a point that you could use them is, to me, in my opinion, not a good fit for the Spurs. And to me, that makes Jose not a good fit for the Spurs. Not that Jose can't coach or do what he does. I mean, the guy's got accolades coming out the wazoo, You can't argue that, but I think it's not something you can just plug and play.
Yeah.
It's got to be
Well,
the right fit, especially with a team like us, the Spurs, that don't just spend like crazy.
well,
So
his biggest claim to fame for me was always FC Porto when they beat a big team there. You know, when but they played that defensive style, that bunker defense. At that point in time, not a lot of people knew how to break it down. So he bunkered in, and but that after that, that's when they won the Champions League with FC Porto. But that was his biggest claim to fame. I don't even think in Chelsea he didn't really build the Chelsea team. I think that was Ancelotti, and he just went in and managed it, and then ended up kind of destroying it a little bit. I thought so.
yeah,
So I'm
you
not a
know,
big fan, and that's probably just me. I'm just not a big fan of him. But
hey, everyone's got, no one likes everybody, and that's fine. And like I said, I wasn't really for the change, but I'm going to give him a chance. And I'm not one of those that are saying he's got to go right now. I
yeah,
think you got to get through the season, see how things shake out, and then you look at things and determine, because making a change now does no good for the Spurs. There's no one out there to go pick up right now. No one's going to come in at this point, and at least for a long term. We'd have to bring in someone for a short term period. And you know what?
yeah,
We're going to be what we are at this point. We might as well just stick with, the coach too. Let him either get us there or not, like he
I agree.
said.
I agree with that stuff. Yeah,
One of the things I kind of get frustrated with too a little bit is that, he said when he was hired he could win with the team that Poch had. And now all of a sudden it's all the players' fault. He
yeah,
can't win with them. And so it gets a little, so I don't care what a coach does and if they do have, everyone's going to have some failings, but own up to it. Don't I feel like, especially lately, he's been deflecting a lot of this stuff onto everyone but him.
yep.
He takes all that elation whenever they win, but he deflects everything when they're losing. And to me, that's not a good leader either. So that's just me, my opinion. But like I said, I'll give him through the end of the season before
That's
I really determine.
Honestly, that's nothing new. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah. So next, let's just talk about a little bit about what your team strengths are. What do you feel like is Man United's team strengths?
Well, speed for sure. Uh,
And it can be, tactics, it can be player, it can be,
yeah,
elements like that. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. Just
I
what do
think
you think?
yeah, I think one of the main things is overall team unity's going on right now. They all are flying. They believe that no matter what, they can come back. They can win. Uh, they but I mean our counter is I think one of the best ones in the world. And then we do have a top not I mean we have up and down the field we have top players. We have great players and players that do their roles and I mean just playing as a team it's probably a good very good strength. So
Yeah. One of the
formation
things
and how they play. Yeah.
One of the things I think you all have that's a little stronger than the Spurs too is, while it could be argued each of us can put out a strong 11 that can compete with just about anybody, I think you have a stronger, like 12 through 16
Yeah.
or 12 through 18, uh, to come in and fill in spots and do things, and not have a big drop off between, who's out there starting the match and who comes in and maybe spells the person for the remainder of the match. I
Yep.
think your drop off from those positions, especially the key positions, is a lot less than what ours are. And I think that's come to bite us a few times, not a few times, quite a few times this season. And I understand that, you know, it's been difficult for Jose to manage the players because there is such a big drop off, and you always want to play the best players, but you can't always do that. They got to have a little break once in a while, and you got to trust those other players to come through, or strategize or develop tactics that allow you to spell those people. And that's one of the things that I think that you all do real well is you've got a good squad. It's not just your 11. It's just
Yeah.
not just your top 3 or 4 guys that are world beaters. We've got a couple world beaters, I would argue, on our team, but we don't have them all throughout, and we've
Yeah.
got to utilize every person that when we have them, or at
Yeah.
least
We
have
have
them
a
as an available
great
option.
first team. Yeah. Our first
So
team is
I,
very solid.
I think one of our strengths, or some of our strengths at least, we have arguably probably one of the best strikers in Europe right now, if not, the world. And he's kind of redefined himself, which has really been fun to see. I think we have a strong going forward front, and it's just I think that sometimes they're not they do good on working with space. It's when things get compact, there's definitely some issues that we have with the creativity and someone being able
Yeah.
to go in and break down get by 2 or 3 players. Now, Ndombele is starting to become that kind of person, but he's not there yet, and he doesn't do it when the defense is packed in. He usually does it from deep and then works through the midfield that way. And so we need another player or two that can actually get in there near the 25-yard line and in and be able to break down those defenses whenever they back in. So while we have a lot of strengths and I think we have players that can score goals well, there's definitely some things that we're lacking. But, what do you think's a weakness for your team?
Let's see. A weakness. Thought of that a little bit ago. Good gracious. What was it?
Hate talking bad about the team, huh?
No, we have weaknesses. We have weaknesses, but I'm trying to think of what it was. I was just thinking of a weakness. And it was a good weakness. Well, a good weakness. It's a weakness I knew that we had. Um, good gracious. Went on about strengths and then forgot about weaknesses. Come back to me. Let me think about it a second.
All right, I'll go with mine. How about that?
Okay. Okay.
So obviously, we talked a little bit about it for at least the Spurs. The backline team speed needs to be, especially in the center back position.
Oh, I know why. Okay.
Something that we don't do well is link up play, especially down deep in the opposing side when we're trying to score. It's there's a lot of just looping it, or what I call looping it around the horn. So all you're doing is moving it back and forth from your wing, whoever's out there on the wing, back up to the holding midfielder or center back around to the other side. And it never really moves inside. Things don't get internal very often. And I think our link up play needs to be a lot better. And I think another thing that we don't do well is press the issue. When we have an opportunity, because we are a pretty good counterattacking team when it's obvious. But when there's opportunity, sometimes when even though you may have the opposing side may have 4 or 5 people kind of getting back and already kind of getting set up, there's also opportunities there. If you press the issue, you create opportunities and confusion. And I don't think we do that enough. I think we get too in ahead of ourselves, and like we just got to get ourselves set in order first before we can go forward. And there's not enough of we got to press the issue more. And I think one thing that we were doing that for a period of time when Bell was getting some of his time in, because one thing I think we're really lacking, someone that can ping those perfect passes over the top or something like that. And that's something Bell was doing. And the only other person that I feel like we have on the team that can do that is Kane. No one else has that ability to ping those long balls or those very, darting balls in through the defense or in through the midfield that can really cause a havoc on a team. And I think that's a huge weakness for us, because we're very, very limited in working within a 10 to 15 yard space most of the
Yeah.
time to try to produce something. And I think that's one of our weaknesses that we definitely struggle with as far as offensively. And, we talked about the defense. So did you think about uh,
Okay. Yeah. The
any,
weakness I think our team has sometimes is interest. I don't think it's as much as you could call it being tired. You can call it not interested yet until they get scored upon, like this
oh,
last weekend, or something like that. I think they do take time off. They take
right.
10 minutes or so off, or 15 or 20 minutes off, and then they're like, "Oh, well, let's start playing now." Well, I think that type of thing has got them in behind in games, but it also can end up biting them in the rump because they wait too long. So that is a weakness that I'm sure I think Solskjaer is trying to fix. Is, hey, let's come out flying, let's fly this whole time, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can definitely say that's something that we have an issue with on a regular basis. I mean, you never know what team you're going to get with Spurs. They're very Jekyll and Hyde. So sometimes they're up before a game, and it doesn't matter who the opponent is, and sometimes they're not. I
Yeah,
mean, look at the way we got bopped out of the Europa League was just embarrassing. I mean, that was a match that all we had to do was go score one goal, and we were through. And the team just looked like waiting for someone to do something the
yeah,
entire match. And it's something that's a repetitive issue for us too. One of the things I think with Spurs too is we'll start off the 5-10 minutes really strong, and then we'll wait to play again until about the 75th minute. So there's like a 50-minute window in there that's just like, you know what, we're just here till we got to get to the end. We
yeah.
start and then I know there's a stat, at least for the Spurs recently, that's been going around that in the last 10 minutes, the Spurs have lost 11 points in the last 10 minutes of matches.
Oh yeah.
So if you put
Well,
11 points on where we should be, that would be, you know, putting us up there easily in the top four.
well,
So
I
we got,
know, I know. We're reverse of that. I know in the last 10 minutes of the game is where we've scored several and have won games based on. So we're actually on the reverse side of that statistic, which has helped us get to where we're at, of course.
that's kind of interesting. That's always been a thing with Man United is they score late in games. I mean,
Yep.
that goes back to 90s and even back in the 90s and stuff. They're always been a team that you can't snooze on them the last 5 or 10 minutes because they're going to be pushing it, and
Yeah.
they have the opportunity and the players available to make something happen. I mean, that's part of it too. Do you even have the squad that can do it?
Yeah.
Just because you're pushing doesn't mean something's going to come forth.
Exactly. It's got to be productive pushing, but yeah, but we've had that this year's. We're back from back in the day. We never were out of a game. I mean, what, 3 goals and a lot in injury time, and against Barcelona, that's 5 minutes worth of injury time to win that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that was one of our Champions League games. So
it's an
back in the
interesting
'90s.
thing. Something for time, but that the little things that become part of a club, but aren't really something that's part of the like something like that. The players that did that back in the 90s aren't in the coaches and the management aren't the same group that's part of it now. So it's interesting how some teams and clubs develop this identity and it's able to be passed down like from generation to generation because that's basically what it is. It's generational at some
Yeah.
point. And some teams don't though. They don't carry things forward. Or they don't, or it's not always a positive thing. Sometimes it's a negative thing. How do you get rid of those bad things? But yeah, it's
Well,
for time.
well, that's where I think Ollie's bringing in the old Sir Alex regime type stuff, because you also, Carrick wasn't involved in that stuff, but he did come over early to get the latter part of that stuff. So he was part of that. So he's there. You got the Neville, Phil Neville. He's there. No, Gary Neville. He's there in the back scenes. And you can't tell me Sir Alex doesn't have a conversation to his young boys about how they need to do it.
Right. Yeah. And
Being
that,
all
that's,
in. So
having a legendary coach like that and someone that they can even, call up and pick his brain a little bit on, that's an advantage that you all have too. I think that's a great thing. And we just, with Spurs, we have a long history too, but it's just not quite as illustrious.
yeah.
And, but okay. So what do you think? How do you think this thing's going to shake out? I know the last match we beat you 6-1.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, very different teams, both of us, from that time to now. So how do you think this is going to shake out? You all played on Thursday in the Europa match. You won. So what do you think is going to shake out with this? What's your prediction?
Well, just since the beginning of this year, since January, we've been flying higher than we have, and which was always Fergie's time, and now it's becoming Ollie's time, which is awesome. So that's where you win championships is that time after Christmas, during the Christmas break, and then right after Christmas you go forward flying. And yeah, I think Spurs is stumbling, or has stumbled, and I think possibly are still stumbling. So my prediction, okay, I really do think we're probably going to win 3-0, 4-1, something like that. I mean,
Oh, that much? Wow.
yeah, I don't really think we'd smoke you like 6, but because we really haven't put up those kinds of number goals consistently. But I mean, I can definitely see us winning by 3 goals.
Are you worried any about fatigue from the Europa match on Thursday?
No.
No? Okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
Hey,
I
just
don't,
asking.
because we've been getting we get up we normally get up really big for the top teams for
The Big Six?
for big 6, big 4, big 6, whatever you want to. Our problem is always the bottom feeders. We we kind of like have trouble with. So I mean, look at us with Man City these 2 times. We've done very well against them, and so I do think we hold Tottenham in that realm of City, Liverpool, Chelsea. They're always someone that we're going to be wanting to go and get.
Right. Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
and we got that locker room talk now. Hey, they smoked the crap out of you 6-1 last time. What are you going to do about it? So
Yeah.
I do think we're going to win by 3.
Okay.
Yep.
So either 3-0 or 4-1, something right in there, right?
Yeah. I can't see Tottenham getting more than a goal, but our
Okay.
defense has been really good. So, but I can see him getting 1. I can definitely see him getting 1.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it's hard
hard
to
to keep
say
them out.
you won't give up one. I mean, when you got Harry and Song and Kassan will be back, and
Yeah.
the potential of Bell out there, potentially, I don't know. But yeah, I hate to say it, but I think even though we got a full week of rest and you guys played on Thursday, I think the best we could hope for in this match would be a draw, to be honest. And that's the best. I
Yeah.
honestly think we're going to lose. Not quite as bad as you think. I think it's going to be more of a 2-1, 3-1. But
Yeah.
I think we're in such disarray in so many areas between the coach, the players, positions, in all jumbled up and everything. Do we have the players that could do it and win? Yeah, but I don't. The way we've been playing the past 3 months, I just cannot, in good conscience, think that we're going to win. So that's what I think.
Well,
So,
I think it all depends on how fast Man U starts.
yeah.
If they start fast, look out. If they start slow, then it can be anybody's game at that point in time. But that's why you play the games.
Yep, and I think it's the same for the Spurs. If the Spurs get out early, get a goal or two, it gives us a chance, gives us an opportunity. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we'll win. I mean, we've blown so many leads, it's ridiculous. But
Well,
it's the same for us.
yeah.
So, all right,
That's
Bub.
right.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, and
Yeah.
you know, everyone out there, if you're watching, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. Let's get a good channel here going here that we can all debate and have good conversation. And thank you, Bob. I appreciate you coming on and
Anytime.
doing this. A lot of fun. You know, if you, anytime, come back and we'll have a good time with it.
I'll talk any team with you. Yeah, we can do a post match if you want to do that. You know.
Well, let's talk afterwards, and we might do a post match. All right.
Sounds good.